Gareth Davis, how are you, my man?
I'm very well, thank you. I've been enjoying the weather. Lots of cycling, lots of paddleboarding, lots of sun, lots of vitamin D, a little bit of Bob Arum. I'm running tomorrow with Daniel Dubois. I'm going to look forward one day. I'm running tomorrow with some Brooks training shoes and gear with Daniel Dubois before I sit down for an interview with him. Not looking forward to the 2K run. We might have to stage the photos, in my view.
Interesting. Let's again, unfortunately, as we did last week, start off with some sad news. A man that I'm sure you would have met before, the great Mike McCallum, freeweight world champion, the body snatcher,
Yeah.
the original body snatcher, has sadly passed away at the age of 68. An incredible fighter, one of the all-time greats. Again, it's just a sad news to kick off the show.
Yeah, absolutely. In that era, obviously, Michael Watson comes to mind. In that time when of great middleweights and super middleweights, um, the body snatcher. Obviously, Dillian White is the modern body snatcher, as he calls himself in the ring. But this guy was a terror. He gave Michael Watson, particularly of British fighters, a really tough time. Brilliant fighter, great guy, humble man. And we're going to lose. I'm a little older than you. The older you get, the more people you lose in life. It's the way things go. It's biology. Sad to see him go. And last week it was a 25-year-old. This week it's a 60-year-old. So it's a very difficult time for the family, and we wish all his loved ones well and look back on a great career.
Indeed. All right, let's pivot to some of the fights over the
What have you
weekend.
done over the
Nothing.
last week?
Oh, actually, that's a very good question you ask. I did the National League playoff final on Sunday from Wembley Stadium. So, for those non-football fans that listen and watch this show, the English football system has a pyramid. So the Premier League is the top of the tree, and then it goes down to the Championship, League One, League Two, the National League, and it keeps on going lower and lower and lower. And I did the National League final between Oldham Athletic, who used to play in the Premier League, in Southend. And the credit to both fans, 52,000 were at Wembley Stadium, which is a National League record. And it could have done more. Wembley sells out in what you rent Wembley based on the tiers, the size of Wembley. So they kind of rented it on just taking the first three tiers. They could have taken the fourth one, but it wouldn't have been financially worth it. So it could have probably gone to 60,000. But incredible game, good to do football. Used to cover football. I love my football, so it's always good to kind of dip my toes in football now and again. So yeah, I did that, and then it's just been a bit of the usual, a bit of talk sport, a bit of boxing. Again, quiet week for us over here in terms of no big show from Boxer, from Matchroom, from Queensbury. So it's been a nice week to just press the pause button, and then obviously we go again this Saturday at Portman Road.
Yeah, very interesting. And also, you mentioned football because I watched the Champions League final. Came in and interviewed. We'll hear from Bob Arum shortly, but came in and did some pre-recorded interviews for Saturday night's Fight Night show, and ended up watching the Champions League final. I wouldn't ordinarily
Mhm.
watch it. Brilliant young players at Paris Saint-Germain. But afterwards, and I'm going away and deflecting away in a different direction, but I couldn't believe what happened in France afterwards.
Mm.
It's extraordinary when a team is victorious like that, and then people take to the streets, and the police get involved, and people get stabbed, and people die. I just I just hate it. I remember being in a stampede where they thought gunshots had gone off at a Mayweather fight in Las Vegas, and it was very frightening. And it
Yeah.
just made me think of that when you're out celebrating something big, or you've been to a sporting event. I mean, lots of people watching that final beamed into, I think, Paris Saint-Germain's home ground and around Paris. It's just extraordinary that after such celebratory moments, that terrible things happen. I mean, people thought people had been shot at that day in the MGM Grand, and that's why they were running out of there. And the stampede, luckily, didn't kill anyone, but could have quite easily. Um,
Yeah.
and you know the MGM Grand, yeah, and you know you're escaping into studios A and B, the media room. I'm digressing, but I just hate to see violence at sport. I hate to see violence around sport when it's a thing of celebration. It's a thing of
Agreed.
gladiatorial combat. You know, it should happen in the arena and not outside.
Agreed. Agreed. Talking of Las Vegas, obviously there were a few fights in the States. The big one in Vegas was headlined by Caleb Plant. He suffered defeat. There was a big build up about Caleb Plant potentially taking on Jamal Charlo. Both of them came through their fights over the weekend. Jamal Charlo, who's been very inactive in the last 3-4 years, he suffered with mental health, depression, and he's been open about it as well. It was great to see him back. He got the win. His twin brother Jamel Charlo was ringside. Looks like he's going to come back as well. But Caleb Plant was the main attraction. He suffered defeat, and I guess it goes back to the point of if a fight can be made, make it. That the rolling of dice all the time we see. Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney a few weeks ago. I mean, how many situations have we had where we thought we were going to get AJ Wilder and all of a sudden that doesn't happen because someone suffers a defeat? And I think the same thing happened on the weekend. Caleb Plant, for the last 4 years, has been linked to Jamal Charlo. Had an incident a couple of years ago where Caleb actually slapped Jamal Charlo, and that was the perfect time to make it. And it's been stalling and stalling. And now, with Caleb Plant suffering defeat, we might have lost it.
Well, I mean, there's a horrible habit. We talk about this quite often, or we have talked about it quite often, of semi-finals, if you like, to keep the football thing going wrong. And Armando Resendiz, what was a huge upset of Caleb Plant at the weekend, not for him in his mind and his team, was that horrible habit of, you know, thinking that the big favourites are going to come through. And it didn't. And it was a brilliantly well-earned split decision victory over Caleb Plant. I mean, I don't know how... I haven't watched every single detail of the fight. Obviously, I was drawn to it on Sunday morning, having read about it. I've seen little clips of it. But the Resendiz just upset the apple cart. Charlo did his part, as you say. And these things, you know... these things do happen, and this is what boxing and this is what sport's all about. And I think what we've got to do is celebrate Resendez's victory. He'll probably do the rematch. That's the only way around it, in my view, unless Resendez Armando gets his opportunity at world level to fight for a world title.
Yeah, that could happen. So that happened in America. A couple of other fights as well. Darius Fulgham lost to Bektemir Melikuziev. Khalil Ko got his revenge in Mexico as well. So there are other bits that we might touch on later on in the show. But I do want to get straight to an interesting sit-down interview that Spencer Oliver did with the current IBF heavyweight champion, Daniel Dubois, from the farm. Very much. Don Charles is almost making this like his own piece of Big Bear. You go to the farm and no one's allowed in. Spencer Oliver was allowed in. And he sat down with, as I said, Daniel Dubois, the current IBF heavyweight champion of the world.
Nearly 2 years ago, the controversy surrounded, was it a low blow, wasn't it a low blow? When you look back on that and reflect on that, what do you think about that fight?
I don't think nothing about it. It happened, and you know, it's stuff I learned from that experience. But now I'm a different fighter. It's a different new person now, and I'm ready to just get ready for the greatest victory in boxing.
Would it be fair to say that fight, I've said this in many interviews, that fight moulded you as a fighter? You know, I think from that fight, you've gone on from strength to strength.
Yeah, of course. You can see in my last 3 fights, and just as going forward, I feel even stronger and getting things right, and just I'm in my prime of my career now, so it's now or never.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that, you're 27 years of age now, you are world heavyweight champion, looking to become undisputed. It's been some journey for you, innit? I mean, going back to that Usyk fight, when you went into that fight, you come away from it. Did you take anything from it? Was he as good as you thought he was originally going to be? What did you take from that?
I'll take it from moving forward. I'll know for sure that if I've been in there with him already. You know, we're prepared for it. We got a lot of tactics right, but some things were missing. So I have an idea already. So it's in my head. I know what I got to do.
Did you feel like you exploited any weaknesses in him?
Yeah, definitely. Not just the punches and everything, but just things around the fight. But yeah, I've learned from that, and I'm a new fighter now.
You know what you've got to do different. Do you think that he's going to try and do anything different in the build up to this? Because you've had, you've had heads now. You've met him again.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to come with anything different?
He probably will. He's a proud man, proud fighter. I don't know if he'll come with anything different. I think he just does the same thing all the time. The basics, the solid basics, and I just gotta be ready for it and know just deep down that I'm gonna get the victory.
Do you think it's an advantage you going back to Wembley again? You've had that victory there over Anthony Joshua in a memorable night. You get a chance to rerun it back at Wembley again. Do you think that's an advantage for you?
Yeah,
going now?
of course. Have to do it again. I'm happy to do it again. Happy to see everyone and just repeat the whole thing again. The scenario, before the fight, the ring walk, everything. Just do it all again, and I'm ready to go back into the lines then.
Interesting piece there. I've always felt, and we've both known Daniel since the very beginning. So it's always good to follow someone's journey into the pro game. And he's now speaking so much better, right? I mean, he's now confident. He's his own man, chest barreled. Maybe that's because he's a champion. Maybe that's because he's been knocking over a few of the old guard. But I almost feel like he's a lot more confident now, is Daniel Dubois.
Well, I mean, it's also because he's not 18 anymore. He's 28 going on. And I think in those 10 years, you change a lot. And as we know, that he's been under a very powerful regimen, a very powerful regime brought on him by his father, Stan, and some of the other kids in the family. I think Stan's got 11 kids, and I think 4 of them are formidable boxers. 2 still to come, Prince and Solomon, is it, I think? Or King,
Yep.
Prince and
Yep.
Solomon. Unless he turns out to be a sax player, because I think Solomon plays the sax as well. I think he's come out of the shadow of what his father wanted him to be, and I think Don Charles has helped that. Obviously, Don Charles gave me a lot of grief after Daniel Dubois defeated Anthony Joshua and said that I didn't really care for the fact that he'd beaten Joshua, and like many other people, I wanted Joshua to win and this, that, and the other. But I think I want to give some praise to Don Charles because I think he's a very strong man motivator. I think he knows. I think he's admitted that when Daniel fought Oleksandr Usyk the first time, Eddie, back in coming up for 2 years ago, he'd only been with him, I think, 4 weeks, 14 weeks or something like that. Now he's been with him 2.5, nearly 2 years. And he's had the opportunity to get into Daniel more to I think I hear Don Charles's voice sometimes in Daniel Dubois and the team, the Dewberrys and the different guys that are around Don Charles. And I think there came a point where they needed to separate Daniel from his father and not just have his father's views. The sergeant regimental regime that he was put under, having to run at an early age press-ups for 2 hours in the end, the Guinness World Record for press-ups, no food and water till he'd completed them. Genuinely a regime that his father put him through, a very strict upbringing, building him for this moment. The big question is this all enough to beat Oleksandr Usyk? And that's what we're going to find out on July the 19th. And we're all fascinated by it. He's a different man now, as he says there in the interview, and potentially a different fighter. I think you've said as well, and I agree with you, probably the most dangerous puncher in the heavyweight division right now.
Yeah, because it's not just one and done, is it? It's one and he'll continue until you are done. Fantastic puncher. Is age maybe a good equalizer here? It's a young man's game. Since they last fought, obviously Oleksandr Usyk is 2 years older, whereas Dubois is 2 more years wiser, 2 more years more experienced, 2 more years with the best wins under his belt. Oleksandr Usyk's coming off a couple of tough fights against Fury as well. We never really look at how the fights play out for the people that won. You know, Usyk took a bit of punishment in both fights as well. And you do wonder if that might be the big equalizer here. If Daniel can use that engine, and he's got an engine, right? I think we've seen that. And he can put it on Usyk for 12 rounds. Could that be the thing that gets it done as opposed to maybe knocking Usyk out? Like, could Daniel win this on points?
Well, it's funny you say that because I was contemplating that yesterday because I think on Saturday night, and I think you and I in the past, I think I might have heard you talking about it as well. And Don Charles has said this. We've got to knock him out. We've got to stop him. But stranger things have happened in boxing. He might go in there and not be able to knock Usyk out, but he might dominate him. Usyk could age overnight. He's at that age where it could happen. He's at the age where we might see suddenly that he doesn't have it anymore. I don't think so with Oleksandr Usyk. Obviously, he's teasing us with all those shots he's taking to the belly, which, again, if Dubois targets that area, it's not going to make any difference for Usyk. It's his Achilles heel. There's little doubt about that. Fury has done it to good effect, even though he doesn't punch as hard as Daniel Dubois. Yes, it is possible that Dubois could win on points. We don't know. And I think with Oleksandr Usyk, rather like Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua at the moment, which we speak about every week, and we rightly do speak about them because they should be getting in a ring. Turkey Al Sheikh, please get them in a ring together twice before the next 12 months are up. If you're watching this and listening to this, you're the man to make it happen because no one else wants to put pressure on them to do it. They should be. Everyone should be putting pressure on them to have that fight, in my view. Yeah, Daniel Dubois could win on points. It's not beyond the bounds, but it will require Usyk to potentially get caught early, and then not be able to gain a foothold in the fight. The first 3 rounds of this fight at Wembley on July the 19th, Addy, at about 11:15 at night, are going to be fascinating because we're going to see if Daniel Dubois has genuinely taken off the L plates from that first fight. And he goes in there and he's there on 6-8 cylinders blowing at Oleksandr Usyk. That's what makes this so fascinating.
Honestly, it's such a fascinating fight. And Oleksandr Usyk's become the Brit Basher, hasn't he? 2 wins over AJ, 2 wins over Fury, a win over Dubois, a win over Bellew, a win over Chisora. I mean, someone needs to put a stop to this. Yeah. Someone needs to get one back for Britain, and Daniel Dubois could be the guy. I do wonder if Usyk. I interviewed obviously Usyk after that second Fury fight, and I was like, "What else is there? Like, what's left? You've become undisputed at cruiserweight. You've become undisputed at heavyweight. You've now got back-to-back victories over Tyson Fury. I mean, you've rubber-stamped what is an incredible career. This is almost just bonus time, and we've seen boxing littered with stories where fighters just hang on for too long, chasing that one more big payday, that one more big moment. And I do wonder if Usyk, and look, by the way, I make Usyk favorite just before anyone jumps on me, but I've seen the story of boxers staying on when they don't have to or shouldn't have to. And I do wonder if Usyk had the perfect moment after beating Fury just to say, that's it, see you later, I've clocked the ball, I've clocked the sport.
Maybe, but also, I mean, you know, certainly in my time live in boxing, Lennox Lewis walked away at the right time and he never seems to regret it. Joe Calzaghe walked away at the right time with victories in the end over, yes, a faded Roy Jones Jr. and Bernard Hopkins with 2 brilliant victories in Las Vegas and then New York. Capped it beautifully, undefeated, of course. I think with Usyk, because of the backdrop to his life, because of the illegal occupation of his country by Russia, the fact that he's a national hero, the fact he's never lost as a professional, the fact that he's doing it so convincingly, that he's in great shape as he is, that there's a big army around him, if I can put it that way, that he's feeding. The entourage is enormous. and the heavyweight division's on fire in terms of what they can earn at the moment. I mean, you mentioned that long list of British fighters that he's beaten. One of the reasons why they can do very well at Wembley, and Frank Warren might scream me down for this and say it's about his boy, Daniel Dubois, but the truth is, there's such a lot of fans want to see Oleksandr Usyk fight as well as Dubois, that's one of the reasons that they are and will literally sell out Wembley in, what, we're 6.5 weeks away. It was 50 days, wasn't it, last Friday? My feeling is that Usyk will go on until we see that he doesn't have the timing anymore. Let's not forget how good Tyson Fury is. Let's not forget, yes, there's a perfect time to walk away in our minds, but these guys this is what defines him. There is an Ajit Kabayel fight there for him still if he beats Daniel Dubois. There is a Joseph Parker fight there for him. There's even, dare I say it, a Moses Itauma fight there for him a year away. Who knows?
Yeah, and look, I mean, he's probably thinking, there's no slippage. So I walk away when I feel like, I'm starting to slip a little bit. And right now, he's a clear number one in the heavyweight division. And if you're clear number one, and as you say, there's a lot of money in the heavyweight division, it's time to fill your bank, right? Fill your boots. And I feel like that's what he's going to do until someone can stop him. Could it be Daniel Dubois on July 19th? All right, you're listening to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Still to come, we're going to get stuck into this weekend's action between Fabio Wardley and Justis Huni. But up next, we're going to hear from Bob Arum and talk about the future of two dormant heavyweights, Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Welcome back. You're listening to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Adi Oladipo, the great Gareth Davis. All right, let's jump straight into this one. Gareth sat down with the legend that is Bob Arum. What's he, Gareth? 92?
92, yeah.
92 with the energy of a man half his age, goes to all the events still, would always be ringside cheering on, jeering, screaming, berating referees and anyone he can. The great Bob Arum, who's seen it all. Let's hear what he had to say. He spoke with Gareth.
Talking about comebacks, someone you've worked with very closely, one of our guys on these shores, Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King. He's been in Monaco with 50 Cent and Derek Chisora and his wife Paris, and enjoying Lake Como in Lombardia in Italy, being romantic and teasing us that he may come back or may not, or he's very happily retired. Hand on heart, and obviously you know Tyson Fury very well, do you feel he'll ever come back for a fight, let's say, with Anthony Joshua?
Well, you never say never. But he's made an awful lot of money, particularly in his last 3 fights over in Saudi. And so he's now reaping the benefits of that, enjoying himself as well he should. And as the days and months pass, the chances of a comeback become more and more remote. But with Tyson, you really never know. Right now, I would say no. He's retired and he's going to stay retired. Can he change his mind in 6 months? Hey, Tyson Fury, of course he can.
Bob Arum giving us an update on Tyson Fury's future, something that we continually speak about. And as you said a bit earlier, rightly so, right? I mean, we are speaking about not just one of the biggest boxers this country's ever produced, one of the biggest sports stars this country's ever produced. Bob, being Bob there, Gareth, I think it's fair to say.
Absolutely. And as he would say, you don't know about boxing. But one of his famous sayings, and obviously Bob was lying to us yesterday, and today he's telling the truth. That's another one of his great lines. A great man, truly a great man, and great to catch up with him in New York, where he was with his wife. They were off to see Dorian Gray at the theatre, believe it or not, in New York, before he was heading back to, I can't remember, it was to wherever it is where Keyshawn Davis is fighting this weekend, and then on to Japan for one of his guys who's fighting in Japan. And also, by the way, and we'll talk about this in a minute, about to go to the Hall of Fame, where Manny Pacquiao is being invested into the Hall of Fame in Canastota. But we'll talk about Pacquiao in a minute. But look, he's been around great fighters all his life, all the way back, beginning with Muhammad Ali, through Marvin Hagler, the Four Kings, the era of the great heavyweights. I mean, the Ali era was extraordinary anyway, but then Mayweather, when you think about all these guys he's promoted, Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, Manny Pacquiao, Vasyl Lomachenko, and onwards, and now Tyson Fury. I mean, it's an extraordinary list. It's like a pantheon of the last 60 great years in America, and it's 60 years he's been involved. And obviously he's reached out and he's involved with Latin American and Japanese fighters, and sometimes some great Brits, including Josh Taylor, of course.
Yeah.
You know, so his resonance is global. The diaspora of his work is global, is planetary. On Tyson Fury, Bob's feeling, as you heard there, is that he doesn't need to fight anymore. He doesn't want to fight anymore, particularly at the moment. He's retired at the moment. But as he says...
What does that even mean, retired at the moment?
Well...
It's almost like it almost doesn't make sense, does it? Retired, but at the moment.
It's like coming off the drug. It's like coming off the drug. It's like not being in camp. It's like not being with the boys. It's like not putting on the grease paint. It's like not doing the media duties. You think about how Fury embraces all of those things. He's a showman. He's an entertainer. He's got a very weird, unusual style about him. Kaleidoscopic hands and great movement for a big heavyweight. Talk to anyone that sparred with Tyson Fury, and they all say it's just extraordinary trying to box him. I think for Tyson Fury, I think the key is that he likes to spend time with Paris and the kids, and that takes him over as well. I think he's as addicted to that as he is to boxing. And maybe, given this bipolarity that he suffers or has as part of him, maybe he just needs time away. I think he'll be back. I'm absolutely convinced he'll be back, and I think he'll wake up one morning and snap his fingers, and I think he'll be back in the gym. And I think it was happening the last couple of weeks, and then he went 100%. To see Fiddy. And he went with Paris to Lombardia and went to Lake Como and teased us. In fact, I know he's teasing us.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's interesting when you hear from other boxers. And Josh Warrington wrote a really good article for the BBC. And obviously, Josh is someone that, you know, packed it up, if you like, after that defeat to Anthony Cacace at Wembley, put his gloves on the canvas, and all of a sudden, Josh is now back. So fighters understand that itch, that want to come back. And I mean, Josh is someone that, removing AJ and Tyson Fury, I mean, Josh had the best fans over here. He's done everything as well. He's achieved greatness as well. And yet he still wants to come back and fight for something. So, I almost feel like Tyson will be back. I guess for me as well, it's more of a hope.
Yeah, of course.
I'm just desperate to see. Yeah, I'm desperate to see the AJ fight. I miss a Tyson Fury press conference. I miss sitting down with the big man. As you say, he's very bipolar. His interviews are fascinating. So as much as I want him to surf into the sunset with his wife and kids and the hundreds of millions that he's made, I just want one more, maybe two.
Yeah.
Just 2 more knocks. That's all I'm asking for. And then you can go and do whatever you want, Mr. Fury. Just give us 2 more fights, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to go back to Josh Warrington for a minute, I read that article. It's very interesting. And what stood out for me and what I recall is when he lost to Anthony Cacace and lay his gloves down in the ring, he said the drive home the next day was the longest drive of his life. Ooh. And for the next 2 weeks, he was just crying and crying, and he didn't want to get out of bed, and he was crying and crying. And it was talking about realizing what's defined you for that entire period of time. And that fight is still in you, and realizing it's still there and wanting to have more, even though you've laid your gloves down. He did the symbolic thing. There's been no laying down of the gloves from Tyson Fury. There's been 5 quasi-retirements. Like you say, I'm with you. I don't hope. I want 2 more fights from him. And one is probably, one is definitely Anthony Joshua. Maybe 2 is Anthony Joshua. I don't really need to see him fight anyone else, because there isn't anyone else in the era he hasn't really fought who we need to see him in against. Joseph Parker will never fight him. Ajit Kabayel will never fight him. He's not going to fight those guys. But I think a fight with Anthony Joshua, and if it's exciting and merits a second, I think it would. I think we want the occasion in the position we're in. We want that build up. We want to be around it. We never got Ricky Hatton and Amir Khan that was being teased and could have been culturally very interesting as well. If we don't get this, there'll be a level of dissatisfaction about this era, an incongruity about this era, and it'll be.
I would say I'd go as far as saying I think there'd be anger.
Yeah.
I think there'd be anger if we don't get this from fight fans who've backed both for years and supported both for years, and they've backed both for years so much that they've hated the other. That's how split their fans are. You actually have AJ fans and Fury fans. You don't just have boxing fans. So I think both sets of fans would be very, very upset if we don't get 2 modern day greats for us over here. Same era, not putting the gloves up with each other.
Yeah, and you get these anomalies. Unfortunately, obviously the most famous one in our lifetime, or not in our lifetime, in our era, is Riddick Bowe and Lennox Lewis never fighting each other as pros, having fought each other in the Olympics in '88. But Larry Holmes and George Foreman never fought each other.
Crazy.
And they should have fought each other. And I remember I've spoken to both men about it. And Larry always says that George didn't want to feel his jab. And George always says, I didn't want to have my head jabbed off. You know?
Yeah.
And obviously the late, great George is gone. So you do get these anomalies. And they're both greats of the heavyweights. And they could have fought each other, but they never did.
Yeah. AJ, we're hearing is on the cusp of signing the 2-fight deal with Riyadh Season. Some names, that's my reaction as well. Some of the names that have been brought up have been Dillian White and Jared Anderson. I saw an interview that Eddie Hearn did with IFL TV, and he mentioned those 2 names. And the Dillian White one will always be there. Whether or not it happens, I don't know. Obviously, Dillian White fights this weekend.
Against
that's
who?
That's still TBA. Yeah, I was just about to say that's TBA, and we're filming this the morning of June 3rd. And he fights on Saturday. That's crazy. That's TBA. And Jared Anderson, who's still, I think, rebuilding from that loss to Bacoli. For me, if it's a 2-fight deal, surely the 2 fights are Dubois and Fury, or Fury. Surely that's what it is, and these other names are just there just in case.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the Jared Anderson fight for him, and I don't think it does anything. I mean,
no,
there's, especially given what happened with Bacoli and Jared Anderson. Martin Bacoli is a fight that we've talked about for a long time. Bacoli's in a weird space at the moment.
Lost a bit of his step, hasn't he?
Yeah, a little bit. He's downstepped.
Yeah,
but a fight we'd fantasized about for a long time. Chaos in Lagos and all that. Was Martin Bacoli and Anthony Joshua in Lagos in Nigeria.
It was a million miles away now. There was a time where I actually thought, this could actually happen.
Oh, no.
Now all of a sudden.
There was definitely a time it could have happened. I mean, but the problem is the trajectory of Anthony Joshua suffered enormously in that defeat to Daniel Dubois last September. And the Carl Froch was very critical on on his show Froch on Fighting in the last week, saying that he feels like Joshua's lost his soul for fighting. I'm not sure he has, but he made a very reasoned argument that, you know, the victories over Otto Wallin, Jermaine Franklin, Francis Ngannou. Are there others that I've forgotten?
No, that's it.
Yeah,
it's just those three.
You know, didn't really prove anything about Anthony Joshua because they were all punch bags. I thought he did extremely well against Francis Ngannou myself. He did what Tyson Fury should have done against him, which was you know, dominate him. But the you know,
can the fire still be as fierce? Can it burn as brightly as it did for AJ several years ago? Like, can it still be what it was when he was coming through?
You look at clips of him. I mean, I say this. You look at clips of him years ago, and he's coming out like a blunderbuss, and he's destroying everything in front of him in a kind of, you know, in a kind of wide manner like that. I mean, to be fair to him, and I'm not critical of Ben Davison saying roll the dice against Daniel Dubois, because I thought he was inches away from making an impact in that fifth round when he got caught. And I think he was under so much pressure from the beginning of that bout and didn't turn up on the night early on in the bout. But I think with Anthony Joshua, maybe more than a Tyson Fury, the athletic bent in him, the desire to achieve still burns very brightly. I do. Yeah. I think it's there.
Yeah, I agree, especially from an athletic standpoint. Like I've always said, you just follow AJ on Instagram for a couple of minutes. He's always doing something in terms of fitness, always trying to add to his arsenal, always. So I think it does shine brightly, but I guess we'll only really know when he steps in the ring. And to Carl Froch's point, I mean, I don't really agree with much Carl says regarding AJ, but he's got a point regarding the level of opponent that AJ fought in the lead up to Dubois, Ngannou, Franklin, and Otto Wallin. And it's easy playing Monday morning quarterback and doing the hindsight thing, but maybe we do need to see him in with someone in the top 10 to really know that he is back. And maybe that happens next. Who knows? Fingers crossed.
One thing is for certain, he is extraordinarily popular and extraordinarily successful. He was that far away from beating Usyk in the second fight. He was so close. You know, yeah. It was a brilliant first 9 rounds by him. But you got this guy.
He hurt Usyk to the body as well, didn't he?
He did. He did very well against Usyk in the second fight. It was an improved performance. It was a very strange first performance, because obviously he was able to right the wrongs in the second fight against Andy Ruiz on that shot after that shocking night in New York. I can just remember the adrenaline dump in everyone's body on that night, you know, when suddenly this behemoth boxer from the UK who was about to conquer America with giant posters all around Times Square, Madison Square Garden, his big elevation with DAZN into the United States suddenly collapsed. I can remember being hoarse with adrenaline. You know that feeling when you're literally, your breath has been taken away. That's why boxing's so extraordinary. I think hopefully we get a breathtaking moment on July the 19th. Hopefully we get 2 or 3 more breathtaking moments from Fury and Joshua.
Yeah, fingers crossed. We might get a breathtaking moment this Saturday live on talkSPORT, because we are going to Portman Road, Ipswich. And when we come back, we are going to discuss the big one. Fabio Wardley fighting in front of his home crowd, home stadium, and he takes on an Australian, Justis Huni. We'll talk about that when we come back. Welcome back. You're listening to Fighter Extra on talkSPORT 2. Adi Oladipo, Gareth Davis. All right, let's focus on this weekend's boxing. It feels weird to have not had any fights weekend just gone, but we are back. Fabio Wardley takes on Justis Huni. It'll be live on talkSPORT. It's happening at Portman Road, Ipswich Town home stadium. This is an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's not Jarrell Miller. And I said this to Fabio, the risk reward for Justis Huni just doesn't add up for me. It's a big risk, and the reward maybe isn't as big because not many people know who Justis Huni is. I think Justis Huni is a really good fighter, and he's a dangerous fighter. But he would have got a lot more bigger reward from casual fans, at least, if he beat up Jarrell Miller, this giant of a man. Maybe he won't get the same amount of love and respect for beating Justis Huni.
Yeah, it's a trickier fight. There's no doubt about it. Justis Huni can box. Obviously, he's only a 5-year pro as opposed to Fabio's an 8-year pro now with very little amateur experience. I mean, fascinatingly, they both had completely different rises into the heavyweight ranks. The key for Fabio is that he's knocked out 17 of 18 opponents, and he's got one draw, and he's looked fantastic doing it. He's got a doggedness, a tenacity, and a viciousness when he fights that is just a joy to behold, because he delivers in lots of exciting fights. I mean, that fight a year ago with Fraser Clark and the knockout in the rematch, the extraordinary draw, of course, the first one was, and the rematch in which most of us want to forget the knockout of Fraser Clark because it was so vicious, and he disfigured the side of his face with an incredible punch in Riyadh, was extraordinary. And Justis Huni is, on paper, probably a better boxer than Fabio.
100%.
But I say, amateur world's bronze medal, amateur world championships in 2019, when Baladir Jalalov, Bakadir Jalalov won the gold. Obviously has won 2 Olympic Games since then as well. I think the thing for Fabio Wardley, this is a coming out party in East Anglia, in front of his fans. I go up to Suffolk quite a lot, and he's a big name up there. He's flirted with the crowd at Portman Road. It's a big football club in the area. It's one of the big clubs, certainly for that part of the country. Like you say, 25,000. There's a little bit of prospect of a tiny bit of rain in the day, but I'm expecting a balmy, warm evening where he walks out, and we're in one of those atmospheres similar to Chris Billam-Smith at Bournemouth, or one of those big nights where he delivers. I think he's going to have I think he's have to draw Justis Huni into a dogfight. I've spoken to both men in the last 4 days. I like the way they both sound. Huni's been in camp in Blackpool for a couple of weeks. He said it was just a massive opportunity he had to take. And you get that. Same with Fabio. He's looking forward to a great occasion. It's something he's wanted all his career. He's always said it. I want to walk out at Portman Road. So I think we're on for a special fight. I'm going to pin my colours to the mast straight away. I think it'll be hammer and tongs. I think Fabio Wardley will win just on points or by late stoppage.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. Especially the late stoppage one sounds about right. I think Justis, look, he's unbeaten. Unbeaten fighters don't think they can lose. So he's coming here to win. And you think of recent, a lot of the home fighters on these shows have lost. Josh Taylor lost. Johnny Fisher lost. Lee Wood lost. You can go down the list. A lot of them are losing. So I guess it's up to Fabio to turn the tide a little bit. But Justis, as you say, has the better amateur pedigree, which doesn't always follow through in pro boxing.
Well, Fabio hasn't got an amateur pedigree either, really.
You're right. Of course, exactly. There's nothing. But what he does have is Nigel Benn-like just anger and violence in him, honestly. And maybe that's a good thing. Like, when he's hurt, whereas amateurs kind of resort to kind of moving around the ring and just giving themselves a second to breathe, he just goes straight back to you and wants to hurt you back, which I always find quite entertaining.
And the counterpoint to that is Fabio's got a voice. I don't know if you've ever thought about this. Have a think about it when you speak to him this week. He's got a voice like a gentle breeze as well.
Like a gentle breeze.
His voice is like he's got a lovely voice. He's got a voice like a gentle breeze in this huge man with tiny ears. He's got tiny little ears. He's got gentle breeze voice, and yet he's got destruction in his hands and in his physicality.
Is there on the horizon a Moses Itauma problem for Fabio?
Oh yeah, what a fight that's going to be.
Well, I mean, because they're both in the same camp. Let's not forget they're both in that Ben Davison camp. And if you're Fabio, and I'm not trying to cause any trouble here at all, but if you're Fabio, you're above Moses at the moment, right? I
Yeah.
mean, in terms of the rankings. And for the last few weeks, all you heard about is Moses, Moses, Moses. There's almost a Hollywood movie brewing here where Fabio is the big dog in the camp. Now AJ is not really in it. And yet all we continually hear about is the younger dog in Moses. And I do wonder if someone has to leave that camp because I feel like there's a fight brewing there. I'm not trying to matchmake. I'm not trying to cause any trouble. I just feel like there's a fight brewing between Moses and Fabio in the next 12 to 18 months, in my eyes, anyway.
Yeah, that's what Saturday night is about as well. It's about Fabio's not a crossover star yet, even though the Fraser Clark fights were fascinating and were fairly big and delivered for him on both occasions. But he is of that generation that's going to have to fight Moses Tauma. So is Daniel Dubois.
Yeah.
But we deserve to see in the next 12 to 18 months, win, lose or draw in Dubois and Wardley's locker, them against Moses Tauma, because that young force is coming. I know, look at it, I know, and the excitement has got to be there. For me, I don't think you're causing any trouble. These guys, I know it does cause an issue that they're both trained under Ben Davison. And I wonder what the shifts are like when they cross over.
Yes.
But
do they stay and watch each other work and spar, right?
But
is there really that sort of, they're all nice and friendly, but deep down are they thinking, well, you're a rival?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, that's right. And the thing is, Fabio's patient though. That's what I like about him. That's the saving grace here for him, that he's very patient. He knows it's a suck it and see. He's 10, 11 in the world for me at the moment. He's definitely at that mark. A victory, like you say, over Justis Huni to cap it. We expect him to win, but Huni could create a very difficult night for him. It could go very close on the cards. But Huni's going to have to fight him because Wardley's going to nail his colour to the mast. There's his nose, which might be an issue because obviously that's got a habit of blowing open. God forbid.
If anything, he's lucky that it's in that space where it just trickles down as opposed to anywhere else. So he's quite fortunate. But I think we've actually got a very intriguing battle on Saturday. Very quick word about his mentor, which is quite strange now. Dillian Whyte on the undercard. Dillian Whyte's obviously on this card. We haven't seen Dillian Whyte since Ebenezer Tete was supposed to fight Joe Joyce, pulled out injured. He's 37. Dillian fast approaching 38. And I guess this next run is a what's left for Dillian. His name is going to be, he's quite fortunate that his name's actually linked to so many big fights. Parker, Chisora, AJ. But he actually does need to show us something. Because that Ebenezer Tete performance, they need to delete it from the files of previous fights because it's so bad. He needs to remind us that there is something left in the tank.
Yeah, he didn't seem up for that fight, did he?
No.
The thing is with Dillian, I like how he's talking about this run, if you like. He's seeing this as a third era in his career, 3.0 rather. And he's not just going after a couple of big fights. He wants to seriously have a run and wants to have a chase at a world title again. And look, he is a big name. There is an Anthony Joshua fight there for him. There is a Joseph Parker fight. I think that's the most logical fight in the autumn, September.
So I thought it was Chisora, but I know
it could be Chisora. Could be Chisora.
Yeah,
could
I feel
be Parker.
like that's just for both of them. Chisora is trying to find an opponent. He wants one more knock for that 50th. And he wanted the Dubois fight, didn't he, Chisora? And I just feel like Chisora and White will just put on violence with each other. And I think it almost should be the last fight for both.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'd all like to fight in Riyadh season because obviously the payment would be huge for them. But maybe there is scope for some of these fights or these fights to be on the undercard of Ben Eubank too, if that happens, because you're going to need something on those cards. I mean, Vidal Riley was in studio at the weekend. He wants to fight Alois Jr. British and Commonwealth. Obviously, Alois wants to fight him as well. He's his mandatory for the British. So you can see that card in late September building. But also, if Fury...
Try and tell Chisora that he's going to be in the undercard of Ben Eubank. Good luck telling him that.
Yeah, but if he's chief support to 65,000 people in the stadium,
that might twist his arm.
Or if we get Fury and Joshua in October, maybe we get Dillian White and Kabayel and Chisora and Parker, or the other way around, in Chisora and Kabayel, Parker and White, and Parker and White on the undercard of that. So, a big heavyweight night, but who knows? Who knows? I mean, the one thing we do know, with all the names you just mentioned, there are fights to be made in the heavyweight division. And no heavyweight right now should be sitting out 6 to 12 months, i.e. Parker, i.e. Kabayel. Everyone should be busy right now because there are so many fights that can happen. Gareth, it's been great as always. We packed in quite a bit to today's show. If you have been listening to Find Extra on talkSPORT 2, big thank you to everyone that tunes in all the time. We really appreciate the numbers are fantastic. Remember, if you've missed any of this show, you can listen to it as a podcast as well. Just find it under the Fight Night banner on the talkSPORT app, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from. As always, we'll be back with you next week.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.